Thank you for the kind introduction. Um, I'm born at Chennai, but brought up and settled in, brought up and trained in Surat. So this is my city. And I can tell you, only when you move outside the city, you realize how rare the climate and that you are blessed with here. You won't get it outside anywhere. So, whenever we come here, we have our entire list, wish list of what food items we need to have, right, when it comes to the city. And not surprising that uh, the Britishers landed here. The East India Company landed in Surat. Now, there has been an entire politics which has happened with this city, particularly to see to it and ensure that Mumbai flourishes. One of the factor being that you were not being given an airport for that reason. And now that we have our own leader sitting in Delhi, you see this, the changes happening in this city. So undoubtedly that this city is going to grow. Now, when we talk about the state of Gujarat, you understand that it is about money. Anybody understands this? So I'd like to take you to what I understand as the concept of money. So human beings on this planet were always trading in what we refer as the barter system. Barter system? That is for thousands of years of human history. That has been the case that human beings using barter system. The coins and the paper currencies and now the digital entries, the CBDC, what they call it, these are something which is happening in the recent times. So what are the, if human beings were using barter system for this many thousands of years, there must have been some benefit. Certainly, there must have been some wisdom. So what happens in a barter system is, one family unit has to prepare a complete end user product. And the other family unit is going to prepare an end user product. And those two products are going to be exchanged. That is how life used to be for thousands of years on this planet. So what are the benefits of that system? The benefits of that system is there is no word called unemployment. There is no word called inflation. There is no word called overproduction. There is no word called underproduction. These were the benefits of the barter system. And then one fine day, Adam Smith came with his capitalism theory. And he started talking about division of labor, the benefit of division of labor. So in the barter system, there were 15 families, say for example, preparing 15 different types of, say, shirts, 15 designs of shirts. Now Adam Smith came and said, let's do one thing. Let's kill 14 designs of shirts. Let's just keep one design of shirt. And let me build a factory. And those 14 families will now become jobbers under me. Right? Now this is the capitalism model under Adam Smith. What happens? The result today that we see, 90% of the wealth with 1% people. 1%? 90% wealth with 1% people. What are the remaining population supposed to do? They get these words called unemployment, inflation, overproduction, and underproduction. This is what happens. Now, once this exploitation started in Europe in the industrialization factories, the question was, if so much of exploitation is supposed to happen that only 2 to 5% is going to hold 90% of the wealth of the nation, क्योंकि factory उसने लगाई है या जो भी है, 14 designs उन्हें खत्म कर दी, तो अब society बोल रही है तो फिर मुझको ये free दो, मुझे वो free दो. That was the birth of Karl Marx communism. राइट कि अब तुमने इतना एक्सप्लॉयटेशन कर ही डाला है सोसाइटी का, तो अब मुझे फ्री में चीज़ें चाहिए, तो स्टेट मुझे ये फ्री में चीज़ें ला के दे। वहाँ से ये वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स का बर्थ हुआ, राइट। नाउ वी डू अंडरस्टैंड दैट दिस फ्रीबीज, नाउ फ्रीबीज, वेयर दिस फ्रीबीज आर गोइंग टू बी स्पॉन्सर्ड फ्रॉम, देयर आर ओनली टू मेथड्स टू स्पॉन्सर द फ्रीबीज कॉस्ट। जब भी कोई पॉलिटिशियन डिक्लेयर करता है कि मैं ये फ्री में देने वाला हूँ, only two methods. One is they are going to collect more taxes from you to sponsor those freebies. And by the way, you will learn it because since you are smart, you're going to pay those heavy taxes. And second method is the central bank is going to print more currency notes, and that is going to sponsor the cost of the freebies. What happens when the central bank prints more notes? The supply of money increases in the market and the purchasing power of the money goes down, right? That is what the inflation means, right? So this is Karl Marx communism saying कि जो भी wealth बना रहा है state उससे पैसे लूटेगा और society के freebies वहाँ से sponsor करो। तो barter system जो टूटी, उसके बाद exploitation हुआ कि 1% will hold the entire wealth, बाकी सारी सोसाइटी जॉबर्स में कन्वर्ट हो गई, राइट। और फिर वहाँ से आया कि चलो फिर अब इतना एक्सप्लॉयटेशन तुमने कर ही लिया है, तो अब मेरे को फ्रीबीज चाहिए। नाउ आई विल टेक यू बैक टू व्हाट हैपेंस विद दिस करेंसीज। हाउ डज डीमोनेटाइजेशन हैपन? द ट्रस्ट ऑफ ह्यूमन सिविलाइजेशन इज ऑलवेज ऑन गोल्ड एंड सिल्वर, दीज आर द प्रेशियस मेटल्स, राइट। तो जैसे ही करेंसी स्टार्ट हुई तो किंग्स एंड क्वींस ने शुरू किया कि गोल्ड और सिल्वर के कॉइन्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किए, ट्रेड चल रहा है। एंड वेन एवर द किंग्स एंड क्वींस थिंक के वेल्थ कलेक्ट करना है, तो वो गोल्ड और सिल्वर के कॉइन्स को डीमोनेटाइज किया गया, कॉइन्स वापस ले लिए गए और उसके बदले में चीपर मेटल्स के कॉइन्स इशू किए गए। दिस वॉज द डीमोनेटाइजेशन मेथड अंडर द किंग्स एंड क्वींस। नाउ after that there was an era of British colonialism जहाँ पे pound became the reserve currency status. Now what happens with this reserve currency status? Reserve currency means सारा ट्रेड जो होना है वो उसी करेंसी में होना है, which means बाकी सारी कंट्रीज की अपनी करेंसी की जो डिमांड है उसको ख़त्म करके पाउंड की वैल्यूएशन को ऊपर लेके जा रहे हैं, क्योंकि एवरीबडी इज डिमांडिंग पाउंड, right? That is the reserve currency status. So United States thought कि this is very nice method of financial colonization, क्योंकि political colonies तो सारी independent कर दी गई है। So United States in the Second World War did demonetization of the European Union. उन्होंने बोला war के लिए मैं जो supplies दे रहा हूँ उसके बदले मुझे चाहिए physical gold. So United States started collecting gold in the Second World War by giving supplies to the European Union. जैसे ही गोल्ड इकट्ठा हो गया, United States dollar replaced pound as the new reserve currency of the world. This is how reserve currencies shift from one country to the other. That is accumulation of physical gold, right? Which is why आप देखोगे हमारे जितने भी भगवान हैं वो सारे गोल्ड में लदे पाए जाते हैं, because gold is the real currency. Not this paper, not this coins, or what the new digital entries that are going to come. Now dollar became the reserve currency status because United States collected all the physical gold backing the dollar. That is what we call as the gold standard. मतलब जिस भी कंट्री को अगर नई करेंसी छापनी है तो उतना गोल्ड रिजर्व्स उनके पास होना चाहिए to print new currency. United States became the new superpower because of this reserve currency status. How? Because बाकी सारी countries की currencies की demand खत्म कर दी गई. Because if India wants to trade with Sri Lanka, you need dollar. India wants to trade with Pakistan, you need dollar, right? तो सबने अपनी currencies की demand खत्म कर दी, valuation खत्म कर दी, and United States became the new superpower of the world. Now there was a question about the trust factor, क्योंकि कोल्ड वॉर चल रहा था विद द USSR. ड्यूरिंग दैट व्हाट हैपेंड, टू काउंटर द कम्युनिस्ट थियोरी which does not believe in religions, और लोगों का डॉलर में ट्रस्ट लाने के लिए दे एडेड द वर्ड्स व्हाट वी कॉल्ड एज इन गॉड वी ट्रस्ट. दिस वाज प्रिंटेड ऑन द यूएस डॉलर टू ब्रिंग द ट्रस्ट फैक्टर ऑन द डॉलर. Now communists do not believe in religions because they say religion is the opium of masses. तो यूएसएसआर को इस तरह से उन्होंने काउंटर किया. During the Vietnam War, the economy went into shambles. सारे एलाइज ने बोला कि चलो ऐसा काम करो, हमें वापस गोल्ड दे दो, we give you dollars back. So President Nixon was under pressure, and he specifically selected 15th August 1971, the Independence Day of India, to unhook the dollar from the gold standard. Why? Because just few months back, Indira Gandhi was declared as the most popular leader in the world. And he did not like that. And now that we have the leaked information out, they cursed the Indians and the Indian Prime Minister like anything. So on 15th August 1971, Nixon says the gold convertibility window is over. मतलब कोई डॉलर वापस देके गोल्ड हमसे नहीं ले सकता है. We can continue as the reserve currency status this way. जैसे ही डॉलर से गोल्ड स्टैंडर्ड हट गया, now this entire world became fiat, F-I-A-T. Fiat currencies means printed out of thin air. उसका कोई बेस नहीं है नई करेंसी प्रिंट करने का, right? 1973, Henry Kissinger goes to Saudi Arabia, offers a deal of security, and in exchange of that, बोला कि आपको सारा क्रूड ऑयल जो है वो डॉलर में बेचना है, and then started the dollarization of the world. With this, it gave the birth to what we call as the petrodollar. पेट्रोडॉलर सिस्टम क्या है कि जितना भी गल्फ में क्रूड ऑयल के एक्सचेंज में डॉलर इकट्ठा होता है रेवेन्यूज में, वो सारी सेविंग्स पार्क होगी यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में, राइट? This was the birth of petrodollar. Now in 1979, Deng Xiaoping goes to President Carter in US and says, okay, we want to become the industrial hub for the world. And Carter says to him, तुम एक काम करो, पहले तुम सिंगल चाइल्ड पॉलिसी लगाओ, तुम्हारी खुद की कंजम्पशन पहले तुम खत्म कर दो. Deng Xiaoping comes back from US, deploys the single child policy on the country. United States starts passing on technology to them in exchange. Now the European Union comes to know that since dollar is the reserve currency status of the world, तो पूरी अमेरिकन इकोनॉमी है इज एक्चुअली बैंकरप्ट और उसका खर्चा बाकी का वर्ल्ड निकाल रहा है, राइट? बिकॉज एवरीबडी हैज टू ट्रेड इन डॉलर. द मोर देयर इज गोइंग टू बी अ डिमांड फॉर द डॉलर, all that expenses are going to be passed on to the rest of the world because everybody has to now purchase more and more dollars to do the trade every single time. तो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स पूरी इकोनॉमी का खर्चा rest of the world is paying even today, till date. That is the status of the world right now. The country is bankrupt since 1971, since the Vietnam War. Rest of the world paying their bills. That is the position right now. Now what happens? There were two people who said we are going to do de-dollarization. One was Saddam Hussein and second was Colonel Gaddafi of Libya. And we all know what happened to both of them, right? But the first serious de-dollarization happened by the European Union, by the EU allies, when they launched the currency called euro. That was the first ever serious de-dollarization. They snatched 20% of the reserve currency status of the dollar. And with that first de-dollarization, the IT sector lost 78% valuations in what we call as the dot-com crash of 2002. Right? Right now what is going on is the final round of de-dollarization. Now imagine why these layoffs are going on. You understand what is happening. This is the final round of de-dollarization that is going on. The final one. So in the 2008 crisis, economic crisis again, United States started printing dollars to bring the US economy out of problem. This time, that entire inflation passed on to the rest of the world, and all the Middle East governments started falling, what we call as the Arab Spring of 2011. Now the Middle East realized that we wasted 50% of our crude oil wealth in radicalization of the Indian subcontinent and the Middle East just to keep the US dollar going in the reserve currency status. So now the Middle East is scared what will happen to the economy because crude oil is finite. You have just 25 years of crude oil stock left, and they do not have any economics because the religious doctrine does not allow any kind of economics. In fact, the religious doctrine is exactly opposite of what economics is. So now the Middle East started searching for an international partner to de-radicalize the Middle East and dump the US dollar. And exactly that point in time, we have a government change 2014 in Delhi. Right. Now the UAE Crown Prince comes to India. He comes for 3 days and they chalk out a plan how to de-radicalize entire Middle East. He gets some guidance. He sends a prince to Akshardham in Delhi, and there they devise a strategy to open yoga, Ayurveda and mandirs throughout the Middle East. That was the starting of the de-radicalization of the world and the de-dollarization of the world. Now all the central banks of the world start collecting physical gold. The Chinese, the Russian, the Indian, all of them. Why? Because we want to flip the US dollar out of the reserve currency status. The next step, this government went ahead and said no more multilateral trade pacts. क्योंकि जितने भी multilateral trade pacts होते हैं उसमें US dollar default बैठ जाता है. So India said no more doing multilateral trade pacts. किसी भी country को trade pact करने आना है, individually आएंगे line में, we will do free trade agreement with individual countries. No more 10-15 nations trade pact. Why? After some months you will realize from now, India will say that all those individual deals will flip out of the US dollar. So this was the second step after starting to physically collect the gold from the West. After that, what happens? All the allied countries refuse to park their savings in the US Treasury. Not even the allied countries. Since January 2002, and from February you have this Ukraine conflict which has started. So it is all scripted collapse going on of the US economy. This is an entire scripted collapse of the US economy. There is no actual real war going on. It is just to drain the EU economy and their currencies. And then you will find that this August there is a BRICS summit in Africa where they are coming with a new kind of a currency which will be pegged to commodities. What kind of commodities? Gold, silver, oil, gas, and then all the BRICS participants. BRICS are Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. But then all the Middle East countries have started giving applications to it. Why? Because the Middle East realize that once this free crude oil gets over, why do we keep savings in a currency which is backed by actually nothing? So the Middle East also wants a currency replacement, which is why all of them are now giving application to the BRICS. Now, what kind of big change is this? If I have to explain you what has happened, in the 50s, 60s and 70s, एक पूरा वेव चलाया गया सारी कंट्रीज में कि आप अपने फादर, मदर, ब्रदर, सिस्टर से हक मांगना शुरू करो. और वो जनरेशन जिन्होंने ये किया, उन्होंने अपना हक मांगा, फैमिली कॉर्पस में से कैपिटल तुड़वाया, वो कैपिटल लेके ये अर्बन सिटीज़ में आए और वो कैपिटल कंपनीज के हाथ में पकड़ाया और खुद जॉबर बन गए. ये जो पूरा वेस्टर्न एजेंसीज ने ये वेव चलाया सारी कंट्रीज में, उसमें एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर पूरा तबाह हो गया. एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप पूरी तबाह हो गई, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर पूरा तबाह हो गया. Now what is going to happen is, since this fiat dollar world is coming to an end, you will find all the jobs starting to vanish. Because the entire services sector was born out of this fiat dollar endless printing formula. तो वो सारे glorified jobs, IT वाले जो हम अभी देख रहे हैं, बैंगलोर, पुणे, हैदराबाद, चेन्नई, those who are getting high pay scales, उनको खुद को ही नहीं पता था कि वो कैसे इतना scale मिल रहा था. But it was directly coming out of that fiat dollar printing. So the IT sector will be the first one. And you can clearly witness the changes which is happening. You have this Google, Microsoft, these guys coming to meet the Indian Prime Minister. They are being told कि आप Indian head को साथ में लेके आओगे तो ही meeting मिलेगी. Then they are told you will have to declare India plans, तो ही meeting मिलेगी. They go back to US, they lay off people over there, they vacate offices over there and they jump over here. So this is the change which is happening. Now this change of this entire global power status which is happening will fructify in this coming Prime Minister's visit to the White House. It is actually a handover of the global power status to India, which is exactly why you are seeing transfer of technology being talked about. Otherwise, US would never do transfer of technology to any country. So the condition was that only if you are going to do a transfer of technology, you'll get a visit of the Indian Prime Minister. Believe it or not, by 2030, the Indian Foreign Minister is going to be the most powerful man on this planet. And meeting the Indian Prime Minister will be out of question. Out of question. No foreign counterparts can casually come and meet the Indian Prime Minister. Next to impossible. So the prediction which I have given, I give many predictions, Doklam, Balakot, LAC standoff, 370, 35A, everything is available on my Twitter. But the prediction that I have given is $1, 3 INR, Indian rupees, by 2029. Because, so you can imagine what is going to happen to the exports. What exactly is going to happen to the exports? Nobody is going to buy. So this entire British colonial agenda of converting the entire society into jobbers comes to an end just now. With all this service sector jobs going, there will be no jobs left, which is why you are seeing that even in US, the kids are going back to their families to stay with them and they can no more pay क्योंकि वो छापने की मशीन बंद हो रही है करेंसी की, राइट? तो फैमिली को तोड़ के, जैसे फैमिली का कॉर्पस लूट के जो ये कंपनीज बनी थी, जिसकी वजह से ये जॉब्स थे, अब क्योंकि वो प्रिंटिंग मशीन नहीं है, what is going to happen is these jobs are going to go and then family entrepreneurship has to restart again. तो ये जो पूरा decade है, it is going to be very, very painful, especially to the youngsters. The first one will be the IT sector, which is going to be hit. The second one would be the banking sector, which is going to be hit. The third one will be an education sector, which is going to be hit, because as soon as the job numbers do not justify the classroom format, which is 15 साल 4 दीवारी में पैक कर दो, उसको market reality पता ही ना चले, and then we will do human trafficking into companies for jobs. ये जो British model था पूरी world को jobbers में convert करने का, that is coming to an end. So all those sectors who were highly paid simply because they were getting those fiat dollar payments levels from outside, all those are going to be in trouble. Now, what is a plus point? All those sectors which were artificially suppressed are going to spring back to correct valuations, which is manufacturing, farming, food processing, logistics, defense sector, and precious metals. So gold, silver, all these prices are going to come back to their real values, Right? Now those people who, I mean, those people in my teams who are aware that this is entire de-dollarization script which is going on, the scripted Ukraine conflict is going on, they all purchased gold in around 47,000. We know what the price is right now, right? So all these precious metals are going to jump back to their correct valuations as this de-dollarization process moves ahead. Now it's going to be very difficult for the, what I foresee is they have made a system over here at the Gift City. I believe that's going to be the next mini World Bank, the Gift City Gandhinagar. And what I feel is that they have already started preparing systems in which NRI can come back and put their wealth back to India. So those systems are being worked right now. Because most probably what is going to happen with de-dollarization is they are going to be beaten black and blue over there. Unfortunately, that is what is going to happen. So you're already seeing attacks on Indians, which is, the trailer has already started. It's going to be tough. So all those students, the message that I have is that think on some kind of an entrepreneurship idea, because once the currency is going to be pegged to real commodities and you have the BRICS currency pilot transactions solidifying, you are going to have very low rate interest loans available, which was not possible in the dollarized world. This is going to be possible, right? And as far as those changes which are required from the state, which is, right, if someone is making profits like for 5-10 years, employing people, there's no reason why to call that person an illiterate. So I believe that the state should go to them, go to their business premise, assess the skills and give them degree then and there. This is what my understanding is. Because today if someone goes to the parent and asks that I have this business idea, the parent is going to retort and tell him, first finish the degree. Right? That's the answer. That's a typical answer that you get. So I believe that in order to bring back the same family unit entrepreneurship model, this is what is required. Since they had the printing machine in the US, they were able to make this fake GDP formula where they added consumption along with investment. Now an 11th standard kid can tell you, if you are making a formula for a performance of an economy for 12 months, how can you add consumption with the investment? Investment is long term. So they created this fake world where the Americans feel rich. I mean, they actually lived rich because of the rest of the world, but then that's what the thing is. So this entire de-dollarization process which has started, I believe that this generation of yours, if you are going to click on to a right business idea and entrepreneurship focus on it, the coming 30 years has come after 2000 years for Indians. This kind of a window where you have all kinds of support that is available. So it is on you that you achieve that 2047 goal that we have of going back to that economic throne that we always were, if you compare the last 300 years as some kind of an aberration. Now if I ask you how these two countries, India and China, had such a massive population, what is the answer? I mean, if you jot down the top 10 countries with the highest population, you are not terribly surprised about 1 and 2. Right? The third one and the fourth one. The difference between the second and third is vast. Not 1, 2, 3, 4 times United States population cannot make one Indian population. This has been true for the whole human history of this world. The thousands of years of this planet, more than 50% of the world's population lives here. What is the reason? What do you think? If it is true for thousands of years. Tell me. Yes. Reason. Natural resources. You are somewhat near. So The Indian subcontinent was on the bottom part of the pole. From there it traveled and dashed with the Asian continent, and that is how the Himalayas are formed. So it is about the Tibetan plateau that is the largest source of fresh water anywhere on this planet. So you have all the major rivers, the Gangetic Plain for India, and the Indus River over there, and the Yangtze River for China. It is because of these massive freshwater rivers that this massive population could be sustained. Now, people of Ahmedabad would know that if Narmada water was not added to Sabarmati, there was no way the city could have survived. So water is not just about drinking, it is about electricity, it is about industry, it is about the population density that you have. Now what human beings were doing on this planet for all thousands of years is agriculture as a primary activity. Now these massive freshwater rivers deposited tremendous amount of silt on both the sides of its banks, and with that massive amount of water, you had 50% of the world's agriculture, you had 50% of the world GDP, you had 50% of the world's farmers. That is how India and China together gave 50% to the world GDP for the last 1700, 1800 years. जो भी उल्टा सुल्टा हुआ last 300 में. More than 50% of the world GDP. Now, what suddenly happened? Industrial Revolution came, and that came to Europe. And now there are references that, you know, some of the technology is stolen from here and then whatever they did. Now 1 unit of a European factory could produce 1,000 times more than an Indian and a Chinese worker. Look at the precipitous fall. India and China fell down from more than 50% of world GDP to less than 5%. But the problem is that if you want to produce 1,000 times more, you need resources. So Europeans devised a strategy. They conquered the important islands, then the port cities, the entry and exit points of India and China. They subdued India and China, got the raw materials from here, sourced it back over there, produced finished goods, sold it back again over here. This is how both the countries became poor. Now what happens with globalization and democracy? The same piece of technology which was so important to Europe slowly started penetrating in Asia. Now an Indian and a Chinese worker about as much equally productive as a European worker. So if you apply a basic rule saying the whole world each person is equally productive, then obviously the country with the largest population is going to become the richest economy. So India and China are back on track to become the largest economies of the world. But the problem is that if you want to produce 1,000 times more, you need resources. You'll be surprised to know that the whole human history of this world is only about one thing, and that is the Indian Ocean. It's the only peaceful ocean from where the oil flows, the gas flows, the raw materials and the resources flow, about 90% of them. And India is just out in those waters. China does not have an access, and that is causing pain. So now India and China following the same strategy which Europeans did so many years back. You cannot necessarily conquer this day, so you are using trade and investments and billions of dollars of line of credit to these island nations. So India and China right now encircling each other in the Indian Ocean, just as Europeans did so many years back. So they took up the Gwadar port of Pakistan, we took up Chabhar port of Iran, they took Hambantota in Sri Lanka, we took another port in Myanmar. This is exactly what is happening right now. Both the countries encircling each other in the Indian Ocean. Now what has happened is, the United States economy, that it has recognized that this kind of de-dollarization and poverty which is going to come to them, because they actually do not have anything to produce and sell at a price point which the world would want in their daily requirements, the US companies, the US-based companies have dumped United States and their currency. Now they want to start shifting and settle their operations over here in India. Which is why you are seeing that after every meeting with the Prime Minister, they go back, they lay off people, they vacate the offices. Now, the problem with the democracies is that the companies take it over. It's the companies who decide everything. So United States, despite having a military might, despite having a state which has had so much of innovation, and by the way, that innovation was possible because of, again, the same reserve currency status, Fiat Dollar level payments, because of which they attracted immigrant brains from all over the world. आज अगर 200 जन को मैं छाप छाप के दे दूं नोट्स, तो इसमें से एक गूगल तो निकल ही आएगा, सबको फ्री में दे रहे, एक माइक्रोसॉफ्ट निकल आएगा. This is exactly what happened when you say that all the innovation comes from there. It comes from there because they have the currency printing machine, which is now going to come to an end. So since that printing machine is coming to an end, you imagine the kind of empowerment that the Indian entrepreneurs and businessmen are going to have with the low rate interest when the currency gets pegged to commodities. So going forward, what you are going to have is more and more opportunities for entrepreneurship. Now, how much are you prepared for those kind of skills? Do you have that temperament? Do the parents have that kind of atmosphere at home to support those kind of failures that comes with entrepreneurship? That is the question. Because this British classroom format was not an education format. It was introduced so that they can produce slaves for factories. उसको चार दीवारी में पैक इसीलिए किया गया 15 साल तक. तो उसका ग्रेजुएशन कंप्लीट होता है, डिग्री मिलती है, दूसरे दिन वो पार्टी देता है, और तीसरे दिन उसने उठना क्यों है उसको वही नहीं पता. उठना क्यों है? Do you get that? So this entire job model is not a natural model, and I do understand that not everybody is going to become an entrepreneur. You will require jobbers. But what I'm trying to say is that this particular British classroom format is going to collapse because there will be no job numbers to justify this model. Absolutely no job models to justify these numbers. So what is going to happen, even in the company's jobs that you will see a change in the kind of employment format where they will say इतना profit लाके दोगे तो that kind of pay. तो वहाँ पे भी पार्टनरशिप और एजेंसी वाला फॉर्मेट आ जाएगा. वहाँ पे भी आपको पैकेज में बोलेंगे कि द लास्ट वीक इज गोइंग टू बी योर स्किल लर्निंग वीक, राइट. सो नो पीस ऑफ पेपर इज, वो चला गया वो टाइम जहाँ पे वो जनरेशन्स एक सर्टिफिकेट लेके दे थॉट के करियर इज डन. यू अनफॉर्चुनेटली आर नॉट दैट लकी, राइट. That kind of rapid changes which is coming. So these are the geopolitical changes which are happening where India is now going to sit on the economic throne of the world. So you will have all those kinds of opportunities. But then how well are you prepared for those kind of skills? And understand AI is also coming. Artificial intelligence. तो वो सारे job roles जिसमें स्टेप 1, स्टेप 2 और स्टेप 3 डिफाइन किए जा सकते हैं, वो जॉब्स तो जाएंगे. जिस जॉब में स्टेप 1, स्टेप 2, स्टेप 3 आराम से डिफाइन हो सकता है, वो मशीन पकड़ लेगा. ठीक है. सो ऑल दोज काइंड ऑफ रोल्स वेयर देयर इज मोर डिसीजन मेकिंग, मोर इंट्यूशन इन्वॉल्व, मोर क्रिएटिविटी इन्वॉल्व, मोर ह्यूमन एलिमेंट इन्वॉल्व, those were the kind of roles that will be safe for humans, right? As far as all other economies are concerned, the fiat dollar जो चाइना को भी समझ में आ गया है, October 2022 they removed the only two pro export guys that they were having in the Politburo. So China is also dumping dollar and finishing off the export model. Because they also understand कि जब flip हो जाएगा currency, the West will not be able to buy even if you want to sell, right? So there were two guys in his Politburo, Xi Jinping. वो दोनों को हटा दिया है. Those two were pro-export guys, right? And China को ये realization तब आया ड्यूरिंग कोविड कि उन्होंने चाइनीज लेबर ने 40 साल मजदूरी करके प्रॉफिट में बनाया 3 ट्रिलियन इन रिजर्व्स। कोविड में अमेरिका ने 14 ट्रिलियन छाप के दे दिए अमेरिकन को फ्री में खर्चो। 14 ट्रिलियन डॉलर्स प्रिंटेड इन लास्ट 3 years by United States and given to the people for free to buy whatever they like. Chinese became the manufacturing factory for the world for 40 years and made 3 trillions in profits. This is the exploitation of the US dollar that they have understood, which is why they are also participating. And they tried yuan for last 3 years, it failed, which is why they are also now working on the BRICS currency. Now BRICS currency is going to be a basket of all multilateral participant members, and it's going to be pegged to commodities, which means no one country can boss around, no one country can sanction anybody, no one country is going to give advisory to other country, and no kind of bilateral conflict can disturb the BRICS currency because it is a multilateral basket. So basically, the US is being told that you stay out of this system, which is not going to be the case, because I believe that this is the same US companies which are helping to build the BRICS, because it's a scripted collapse. So after doing all the drama, you will find US will be holding more BRICS reserves than South Africa and Brazil combined after the drama script gets over. Now, how do these conflicts happen? The method of running the US dollar as a reserve currency is that one basket of nation is being given arms and money from the printing machine. Second basket of nation are sanctioned. तो इंडिया को बोला जाएगा तेरे बाजू वाला चोर है, पाकिस्तान. Now that country needs to be sanctioned. तो अगर उसको sanction करना है तो you have to continue with the US dollar. This is what they did in Saudi Arabia and Iran. Big देख भाई ईरान तो चोर है, ईरान को हम sanction करेंगे, you continue with the US dollar. Right? So this is the two bucket theory which they played continuously for the last 50 years just to keep the US dollar going. अब क्योंकि dollar is getting done, you find that all these artificially created flashpoints are going to reverse, which means POK will be done, which means Taiwan will be done, which means Israel will be allowed to denuclearize Iran. And since this entire de-dollarization process is also about deradicalization, where the Gulf has selected India to de-radicalize the Middle East, I believe UAE is going to be the first official Hindu country in the world. By 2040, you will see UAE is the first official Hindu country in the world, Saudi Arabia is the first official Jewish majority country in the world, and Iran is the first official Christian majority country in this world. These are the kind of geopolitical changes which are coming. Because the religious doctrine which started from the desert is opposite of what economics is. And now the Middle East is scared that that limited crude oil stock is going to get over, and they don't want to become what our neighbor has become. Right? So even in Pakistan, we are seeing that after 75 years, they allowed some Jain monks to enter and get their things done. Then you are seeing that the Sharda Peeth is going to be revived. You'll also have the Hinglaj Mata and all of those. All that ancient stuff will come back, because all the countries of the world are basically rejecting this colonization agenda of converting the entire society into jobbers. Where Italy is saying that we are going to ban English language, Australia is saying that we are going to remove the British monarch from the currency. Right? Germany and France, they have started those preschools in that Gurukul format, ancient India Gurukul format. So this is the decolonization wave which has started, in which all these ultra glorified, senseless jobs, high paid, which were created, they are going to vanish. Which is why you will see that states like California, they are going to a gradual decline. Chicago, New York. Similarly, you will find that Bangalore, all those commercial spaces which were, because these IT guys have those fiat level payments, those centers are going to go down further and further. You will find that happening in the coming years. So in terms of what kind of role that India is going to have by 2047, the new parliament, it's not created for India. The new parliament is created for the entire Indian subcontinent, which is why you do not have the central hall in there. जब foreign dignitary आते थे तो उनको central hall में बिठाते, वहाँ speech देते थे. Now the foreign dignitaries have to speak in the Lok Sabha and they have to sit in the Lok Sabha. There is no central hall in the new parliament. It is made for entire Indian subcontinent because the net security provider for the entire Indian subcontinent is going to be India. As far as what I see and understand, UAE Air Force will be added to the Indian Air Force, the Iranian Navy will be added to the Indian Navy, and the Saudi combat forces will be added to the Indian Army by 2047. As long as the commodities are concerned, Russia is the richest country in the world at this point in time as per the IMF report. Since the currencies are going to be pegged to commodities, Russia is going to be the richest in the list. And then you are going to have the entire Arctic which is melting. तो उसमें से जो खजाना निकलेगा and the sea lanes, all of them again will be Russian. So it's going to be the richest economy up until 2040-47, right? So that partnership does make sense, what we are seeing. Done for the day? POK. POK is the question. So from what I understand, the movement in geopolitics, the factions that need to be purchased within Pakistan are being purchased. तो जो POK का जो भी 2-3 दिन का ड्रामा स्क्रिप्ट है वो होगा जिसमें एक्चुअल लाइव्स जाएंगी बट एक्चुअली इट्स ड्रामा so it's not going to be kind of fixed kind of a script, but I do believe that the right time should be before 2024, but you never know. All time is good time because as long as I see in terms of diplomacy, there is no hindrance in terms of diplomacy. There is no hindrance in terms of any of the international countries going against India or that kind of thing. So it's only about how do we fix the response from Pakistan within Pakistan. So it's just about that. So जो 2-3 दिन का drama होना है, that is about it. But of course Taiwan is well on the list any point in time. Similarly, Israel, Iran on the list because they have to denuclearize Iran. तो ये 3 तो hotspots हैं ही जो होंगे ही होंगे. There's no doubt about it. Just as I had predicted about Ukraine before that war. तो ये चारों flashpoints, these are in the de-dollarization script. क्योंकि वो ताइवान वाला होगा तो चाइना से डीकपल होगा. तो डीकपल होगा तो एक्सपोर्ट्स बंद होंगे. एक्सपोर्ट्स बंद होंगे तो डॉलर का रोल खत्म होगा. So this is entirely scripted stuff which is going on. So this visit of the Prime Minister, I do believe that's a handover of the global power status to India. So through this decade, you will find all of these companies shifting and settling in India, right? So that's about it.
What a dynamic session it was. What a dynamic session it was. Now I would like to call Mr. Chirag Dolasia, Managing Committee Member of Surat Branch of Wicasa, as a moderator of this session.
That this level of knowledge about geopolitics in such a short span by Sir has given us a different point of view about the world affairs. So I would like to start my question that everyone must be investing in the stock market. You told about de-dollarization, sir. So I want to ask about that what measures can be taken to address the challenge posed by de-dollarization, and also what effect will be on the stock market, because India stock market is now like a bull phase is going on. So what will be next after de-dollarization?
as per the scripted collapse, what I call it, of the US economy, I believe that they have to increase inflation to such a high level in United States so that all the banks start collapsing one by one, and there will be only 4 or 5 banks left in the United States within which all the bank deposits and the debts will be deposited. So once that happens, they are going to press that reset button, what we call it, for this de-dollarization process. So when this kind of crisis events begin in US, you will find that for the short term, in the Indian stock market, there will be FPI and FII withdrawals. So that is going to hit, which is why I see that SBI was recently allowed to have a stake in HDFC, because HDFC has about 31% of FII stake. So preparations chal rahe hain har tarah se. So all those stocks which has FPIs and FII stake in it, they will face sudden withdrawals, which means that all those, even the businesses which are dependent on the Western clients, are going to take a hit. So except those stocks, I don't believe there will be any much effect in the medium term or long term for the Indian stock market. It's going to be a bull run in the medium to long term. But as far as I believe that those people who are living in the West, they should immediately convert whatever they have into physical gold, because gold is the only asset which I call as Sanatan. Gold is the only asset which has zero default risk, it has zero political risk, it's a zero geopolitical risk, it's a zero liquidity risk, it has zero counterparty risk. That's the real currency actually. So those people who are in the West, they should immediately convert to physical gold. Those who want to invest can certainly buy gold, because it's going to jump back to the correct valuations, which is that I had predicted when it was 47, 48, I had predicted 63 to 75,000 by December 2023. As far as US stock market is concerned, I have predicted 15 to 35% cut in the valuations by December 2023. So if you want to visit my predictions, there's a Twitter handle, Ankit @IIMA. You can check that. All right. And if you want to hear my talk, then on the YouTube, you can type Ankit Shah and you'll get all of that.
Sir, so from your point of view, in long run, we will not face that much casualty in the stock market.
No, yeah.
Okay. Then, sir, I recently got to know about your upcoming book, New Sanatan Economics Model. Sir, so can you share some insight about it?
Yeah. So when we talk about this, what I call as the Sanatan economics model, which plugs the gap of Adam Smith capitalism and Karl Marx communism, because we do not want any big role for the companies or the state in family or personal lives or the community lives. So what kind of an economics that would be? So it has multiple level of ecosystems, one of which is a Mandir ecosystem that you can check out on YouTube. It's a very long one if I start that. But basically there are the main 4 factors of production: men, machine, market, and money, right? So the main factor of production, now the wealth of nations always pass on with a family unit legacy, right? The problem that the US, EU, Japan, or the Chinese economy is, the Chinese economy did single child policy so as to get the US technology in exchange. तो उसका output ये आया है, by 2029 the Chinese economy will have 40 million men without any women to marry. 40 million. 40. So they have reversed the single child policy, but the trickle down effect will begin from 2029. So what happens is 4 grandparents, 2 parents, और कमाने वाला एक, और उसको वाइफ भी नहीं मिल रही है. So from 2029, that is what is coming for the Chinese economy. Now as far as Japan, EU, Russia and US is concerned, इन चारों ने क्या करा है? Because of this job model, which is based on the classroom model of co-education, where girl child and the male child both sitting in the same class, the intent of this model was converting entire society into jobbers, which means they treated women as well as a unit of labor for the industrial factories. What has happened because of this, the US, EU, Russia and Japan, all these economies are now destroyed because they do not have the birth rates to justify the wealth of nations to pass on to the next generation. So they did this for temporary GDP, and now because of that they are collapsing. Now what EU has done is they have started importing Middle East radicals into Europe, which they will face very soon the effect of, which I believe will result in a partition in UK by 2030. So there will be a clash in the European Union in that sense, just because they deployed the women factor of production as a temporary GDP. It's a temporary GDP because if you don't have birth rates, you cannot pass on the wealth to the next generation. So the wealth of nation won't pass, right? So this is something about the man factor of production that we need to fix in terms of coming out of this job model, because entrepreneurship means you have the steering wheel in your hands, right? So you can justify the birth rates, the family responsibilities and work, which is not the case with the job model. The job model actually started with the focus of reducing the birth rates in the West so that companies will get cheaper labor, because generally women are cheaper labor compared to the men, and more stable compared to the man factor of production in terms of sticking to that particular job or a city. Besides that, the target of government able to tax the remaining 50% women population as well. So this was the nexus which was created, wherein the classroom profits went to the Christian conversion. आज अगर आप कोई भी schools का annual report open करके देख लोगे, you will find the funding going to the Christian conversion, irrespective of the fact whether that school or college is a Christian or not, right? So ये पूरा एक nexus create हुआ था for human trafficking into jobs to the corporate and this kind of stuff. So the Sanatan economics model talks about maintaining the man factor of production as well. So when the machine factor of production in the artificial intelligence is saying that we are going to take those jobs, then we need to devise correct indexes so that the machine factor of production is not able to compete with the man factor of production. The machine is not supposed to compete with the men. The machine is supposed to enhance productivity of the man factor of production, not compete with him, right? Especially in those economies like ours, where we do have the life cycle wisdom of carrying forward the correct birth rates.
Sir, you told about our Prime Minister US visit, which is forthcoming. Then what are your views about India-US relation after that meeting? And what do you think are the objectives that India will be proposing to US?
So this particular US visit is majorly about technology transfer. And once this technology transfer happens and these companies shift to their operations here, you'll also find that the maintenance of those high-tech defense stuff. Now, the ticket amount of those maintenance projects could be lesser, but the geopolitical importance of having the maintenance and spare parts done in a country is very, very important, because in terms of crisis, you need those critical supplies and maintenance done on time. So all those countries dependent on those products are going to compulsory have good relations with India, right? Besides that, you will also find that this kind of companies, when they come here, it's not just about jobs. There is an investment in technology which helps the new innovation to happen. One, a skill set of a management hierarchy which is learned. Now, I do believe that those global institutions which are going to survive this wave, I believe that there are clear directions given to them that the top management is going to convert from a white to an NRI, that is a non-resident Indian, and then from an NRI to a resident Indian. I believe that all these companies are given clear instructions that the top management will have to change like this if you want to survive and have access of the BRICS Plus market. This is what, in terms of geopolitical change, that is coming with this visit. Now the roles are going to be flipped because Russia is going to be the richest country in the world, and United States will be doing more of defense supply and technology transfer to India. So trade, the non-defense trade with Russia will increase. I believe after this Indo-US deals done, you will have massive India-Russia deals happening, where people to people, all kinds of recognition will be done, from qualification to legal framework to regulatory stuff. So a huge market for Indians coming up is Russia.
Sir, one personal question, because
Achha.
that I will ask personally, sir. Sir, you are a CA, and then you moved on to geopolitics, geopolitical analyst. Then how you choose this field? Because it's means the combination is entirely new for all of the CA students. So the students must know about it.
So I have qualified from here, and the first job was at this very branch as a branch head. And that time I remember we had this budget for this land premises done, and we had two options. I mean, one branch was around it was a big space, but we selected this one because we wanted somewhere around TGP and airport. So the budget happened during my tenure over here, right? From here, the first place where I joined was IIM Ahmedabad. So as an associate, I was taking finance and accounts doubt solving sessions, because at IIM, the class of 90, about 88 would be engineers. So they have no clue of what accounting and finance is. And the professors would directly start with high level cases. So from there, they told me that you need to bring some PhD from the top 5 IITs, IIMs, or the law schools. So I joined the Gujarat National Law University for PhD. And our director, Sir Bimal Patel, used to be the member of the National Security Advisory Board with Ajit Doval, so of GNLU. So, and then his term got over. So that was the time when, as PhD students, you are told to give policy recommendations on several things. So I did give some of the recommendations on the Kashmir policy, and also the UP deradicalization model and that kind of stuff. So it was natural. From there it started the geopolitics journey.
Sir, now I would like to open the questions for the students.
Hello, sir. Sir, as you said on de-dollarization, do you think COVID-19 was scripted and it was a part of it?
So I believe COVID-19 was a job of jointly of the Chinese Communist Party and CIA. This is my understanding, because they did not wanted strong governments in countries. One of these reasons. And second, obviously, we all know how companies benefited by the vaccine business and all that stuff. So I do believe it was scripted.
Hello, sir.
Just hold on. To your point, because understand one thing, that when capitalism exploits the society so much, then there will be freebies which will be asked to justify, sustenance. And when freebies are being asked, the capitalists will not like the state to extract money from them and give to an unproductive population. So you will have COVID. Do you understand? This is what happens.
सर मेरे 2 क्वेश्चंस थे. फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन वाज कि यूएस जितना गोल्ड अपने पास क्लेम करता है उतना क्या रियली भी उसके पास है, मतलब. और दूसरा क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि क्या हम वर्ल्ड वॉर 3 को बहुत करीब से नहीं, मतलब बहुत वर्ल्ड वॉर 3 इज़ नॉट नियर, क्योंकि एक तो यूएसए ने अफगानिस्तान छोड़ दिया जिससे उसने एशिया को बैटलफील्ड बना दिया. फिर रशिया यूक्रेन के बीच में जो रिलेशन, यूरोप और रशिया के बीच में जो रिलेशनशिप थी वो ख़त्म हो गई. और चाइना और यूएसए के बीच में जो रिलेशनशिप वो ख़त्म हो गई. इसराइल में हमने देख ही रहे इसराइल में क्या हो रहा है. चाइना ताइवान इज वेरी सर्टेन केस, और यूरोप में जिस तरीके से अभी हालत चल रही है, तो क्या हमें बहुत बड़ा मतलब वर्ल्ड वॉर नहीं देख सकते?
सी एज आई एक्सप्लेन्ड यू कि ये हॉटस्पॉट्स क्रिएट किए गए थे डॉलर को चालू रखने के लिए, अब वो रिवर्स होंगे, तो वो रिवर्स होने में वॉर तो होना है, पीओके होना है तो वॉर होना है, भले ही स्क्रिप्टेड है बट होना है, राइट। सिमिलरली ताइवान भी रिवर्स करना है तो होगा, वैसे ही ईरान का डी न्यूक्लियराइजेशन है तो इसराइल ईरान का भी होगा, बट दीज आर रिवर्सल वॉर्स ऑफ अ फेक क्रिएटेड हॉटस्पॉट्स, क्योंकि अब डॉलर को वो रोल ही नहीं है, नहीं देना है, उसकी स्क्रिप्ट चल रही है, तो वो हॉटस्पॉट्स रिवर्स होंगे। बट आई डू नॉट बिलीव इन वर्ल्ड वॉर, क्योंकि अगर डी डॉलराइजेशन स्टॉप करना होता यूएस ने, तो यूएस वुड हैव अटैक्ड रशिया और चाइना। इंस्टेड दे आई मीन आई बिलीव दैट ऑल फोर अग्रीड कि इससे अच्छा है यूरोप की करेंसी और इकोनॉमी खत्म कर दें। दिस इज व्हाट यूक्रेन इज। यूक्रेन मीन्स इंडिया, चाइना, रशिया एंड यूएस, all four are benefiting from that conflict. It's very clear, right? So all four decided, instead of going for some real war, US trying to stop de-dollarization, this is a better process to do de-dollarization, fake conflict. वो सारी डिफेंस डील्स होती हैं, यूएस टैक्स पेयर्स का ही पैसा है जो यूक्रेन में जो यूज़ हो रहे हैं सारे आर्म्स, ठीक है, तो यूएस टैक्स पेयर्स का पैसा राउट होके डिफेंस कंपनीज के पॉकेट में आता है, और फिर नेक्स्ट ईयर वो उसमें से इलेक्शन कैंपेन होगा। there's not a single war US has won, and they haven't won a single war because all those were fake. It was a method of US defense companies pocketing profits from the taxpayers' money via a second country, which is why none of that war US won. Gold, do they have the real numbers? What they have officially declared is 8,000 tons. But in this de-dollarization script, since BRICS is a currency where you do not require, because multiple countries are making this currency in a basket, so all central banks require only tiny proportion of gold. So I don't believe that they're going to reduce a lot from the West. Tiny proportion with every country, and de-dollarization can be done. Even if BRICS currency fails, suppose BRICS currency fails, despite that de-dollarization is confirmed, because all countries can keep top 5 trading partners currency and a proportion of gold for gap adjustment. So de-dollarization is confirmed whether or not BRICS works.
Hello sir, Jay Barot here. Sir, in coming years, isn't AI will be a big limitation for humans in high populated countries like India?
Which is why I am saying that the machine factor of production is not supposed to compete with the man factor of production, right? So in the Sanatan economics model, which is the next book coming up, I am trying to devise new kind of indexes where we can keep a control on what level of technology that can be deployed. It should not be able to replace humans to that level where they become unproductive. As I said, if a chunk of population becomes unproductive, and they are going to ask freebies, or what we call as the universal basic income, जो अभी नया चल रहा है, अगर ये freebies वाला हो गया, तो फिर आप नए वायरस आएंगे, because the capitalists are not going to like that the state is going to loot them and give freebies to the unproductive people. तो वो फिर ओहायो में फिर ट्रेन पलटेगी केमिकल वाली।
हेलो सर, अमित रॉय यार, मेरा सवाल है आपसे कि मतलब जैसे कि अभी बहुत सारे ब्लॉक बन रहे हैं एंटायर वर्ल्ड में, जैसे कि ब्रिक्स हो गया, G20, और बहुत सारे मतलब एक्सपांड करना चाहते हैं, तो ब्रिक्स कंट्री अभी करेंसी लाने का सोच रही है, उसकी वजह से बहुत सारे कंट्री है जो भी गल्फ के कंट्री है या फिर टर्की, पाकिस्तान, वो भी एप्लीकेशन कर रहे हैं ब्रिक्स में जुड़ने के लिए। तो एज ए इंडिया फाउंडर मेंबर है ब्रिक्स का, तो उसको क्या पाकिस्तान और टर्की जैसे ग्रुपों को अलो करना चाहिए? जैसे कि वो ग्रुप अगर अलो होते हैं ब्रिक्स में, तो उससे कोई मतलब ऐसी कोई उसमें वैल्यू एडिशन तो होगा नहीं, क्या है कि वो ऐसी कोई इकोनॉमी नहीं है कि जो फ्यूचर में काम कर सकती है, तो इससे तो ग्रुप का डीवैल्यूटी होगा ना। तो मतलब इंडिया को एज अ फाउंडर मेंबर क्या उसको अलो करना चाहिए कि नहीं करना चाहिए?
So one thing Your question is about whether those useless economies would be joining. Now, do understand, do understand one thing, that if United Nations के पास December 2022 तक का time था to give India that high-level seat in the Security Council with a veto power, जो उन्होंने नहीं कर पाए या जो भी हुआ है. Now you are not going to have this young population, not going to have that kind of patience to waste के कब United Nations हमको वो देगा position, right? So India started creating alternatives के क्या क्या हो सकता है. So if United Nations is not going to be able to reform, then BRICS 5 countries will become the United Nations Security Council, and BRICS Plus will become United Nations General Assembly over the time. क्योंकि अगर वो नहीं कर पा रहे तो फिर दिस इज द ओनली मेथड, राइट. बट आई डू बिलीव जो मैं देख रहा हूँ, रॉकेफेलर में फाउंडेशन में ऊपर एनआरआई आ गया है, आईएमएफ में ऊपर एनआरआई आ गया है, और वर्ल्ड बैंक में भी आ गया है. सो जो मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सर्वाइव करने हैं उनको क्लियर इंस्ट्रक्शन है, वाइट से एनआरआई, एनआरआई से रेजिडेंट इंडियन. दिस आर द क्लियर इंस्ट्रक्शंस गिवन, राइट.
सर आपने जो सब भी बताया अभी, उसको अपन पार्ट ऑफ ग्रेट रिसेट कंसीडर कर सकते हैं. एंड माय सेकंड क्वेश्चन इज द स्टेटमेंट पब्लिश्ड बाय वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम दैट बाय 2030 यू विल ओन नथिंग देन आल्सो यू विल बी हैप्पी, उस पर आपका क्या व्यूज है?
हाँ, सो इट इज़ अ वेरी बिग रिसेट. तो आप ग्रेट रिसेट इसको बोल सकते हो, बिकॉज द एंटायर सोसाइटी इज गोइंग टू चेंज. अंडरस्टैंड कि जैसे यहाँ पे इन्होंने फैमिलीज तोड़ी, कैपिटल कंपनीज को ट्रांसफ़र करवाई और सब जॉबर्स बन गए, बिल्कुल वैसे वहाँ पे उन्होंने वेस्ट में भी किया है. उन्होंने नोट छाप के वी विल टेक केयर ऑफ योर एजेड पेरेंट्स, दैट इज़ मेडिकेड एंड सोशल बेनिफिट्स एंड रिटायरमेंट बेनिफिट्स. तुम पेरेंट्स का घर छोड़ दो एंड स्टार्ट डूइंग जॉब्स. तो वहाँ पे जो 16 की एज में निकाल दिए जाते हैं बच्चे, जो स्टूडेंट लोन से स्टार्ट करते हैं अपनी लाइफ, तो वहाँ पे भी रिवर्सल आ रहा है. दे आर कमिंग बैक होम, क्योंकि अब वो नोट छापने की मशीन बंद होने वाली है, तो वो एजेड पेरेंट्स को मेडिकेड और सोशल बेनिफिट्स नहीं मिलेंगे. जो मैंने प्रेडिक्ट किया है, बाय 2025 60% कट इन द सैलरी लेवल्स इन यूएस, 35% कट इन द सोशल बेनिफिट्स, 25% कट इन द डिफेंस बजट. ठीक. तो जब ये पूरा रीसेट होगा तो इट्स गोइंग टू बी वर्ल्ड वाइड. It's not just about 1 or 2 countries. So you will find that all urban areas, urban cities over here that you have are going to face the impact of coming down, क्योंकि वो remittances पे based है, outsourcing work के ऊपर based है. वो सारी cities नीचे आएगी और बाकी की tier 2 और 3 ऊपर जाएगी, with manufacturing and all those sectors which I told.
Thank you, Ankit sir. Thank you, Chirag. Give a huge round of applause, guys.